Noon. Baruch haba, welcome to conversion class number 5. Shabbat Shalom. So if you would turn to the book of Yaakov, aka James or Santiago, Jimmy. There is no James. There is no James. Okay, well, there is, but he's back over there. Cody said, "What about me?" I'm gonna call you Jimmy from now on. Jimmy Cody. But there is no James. The reason why is there James? There's no Jewish name James. Okay, so how did James get in the Bible? Peter, James, and John in a sailboat. How many of you remember that? Peter, James, and John. Well, there is no Peter, there is no James, and there is no John. It is Kefa, it is Yochanan, and it is Yaakov. Okay, those are their names. Okay, they were anglicized, and how did we get James? Because James isn't even close to Yaakov. I mean, Peter, because he's the rock, right? But literally, it's Kefa, Shimon. Simon Peter, Shimon Kefa. Okay, and Yochanan is Hebrew for John. So you can see that. But James, we got James because a certain English king, actually Scottish king, but was the what do you call it? He was the one who gave the money for the translation of what is now called the King James Version. And since he was paying for these people to translate the Bible into English, what is called King James English or Elizabethan English, he said, "Hey guys, I'd like my name to be in the Bible." And they said, "What's your name?" And he said, "James." They said, "Well, there's no James in the Bible." And he said, "Well, you put James in the Bible, and there will be a James in the Bible." So they took Yaakov, who is the brother of Yeshua. He's the brother of Yeshua. And so they took his name and they changed it to James. Okay, so that's how we came up with James. But it is actually Yaakov. Okay, so we're going to look at Yaakov chapter 1. We're going to go through the book of Yaakov a little bit. The reason being, Yaakov is in Christianity. Yaakov is what is in the New Testament, the Brit Hadashah. But it is not about a new religion. It's about Judaism. And you'll see that in the very beginning. It's about Judaism. How do we know? Well, verse number 1. He says, to the 12 tribes and the diaspora. What is that? The 12 tribes that have been exiled. Who are the 12 tribes? It's not the church. There is no church. He is speaking to Jews. So once again, Yeshua did not come to start a new religion. He came to show us how Judaism is to be lived out. And so it's not that people are to convert to a new religion. It's that he was bringing the world into Judaism to teach us how to live good Jewish lives. That's what it's all about. Okay, so he says, Yaakov, Eved Lelochim, Ve Adonai Yeshua Mashiach. He says, Yaakov, a slave of God and of the Lord Yeshua HaMashiach, to the 12 tribes in the diaspora. Shalom. Okay? He is just as Yeshua, just as Yochanan the Immerser, John the Baptist, John the Immerser. He's not John the Baptist. He is an immerser, which was a common practice because he's a priest. And he's bringing people into the temple. And so he's bringing them, he's converting them from wickedness to to a Torah observant life. So we're going to kick off here. Do I have to? Do I have to? Do I have to? I hear that probably more often than I hear any other question. From Christians, from people coming from Hebrew roots and Messianic, do I have to? And the short answer is no. You don't have to do anything. But the real question ought not to be, do I have to? The real questions should be, should I? Can I?
And in fact, the question that should be tickling our brain is, why can I not do this and do that? You see, we're looking at it through the wrong end of the binoculars. Huh? When you look through the right end of the binoculars, everything is up close and clear. When you look through the wrong
wrong end, everything is far away and fuzzy. And so we're asking the wrong question. We're looking through the wrong perspective, through the wrong lens.
So, if you're getting married, gentlemen, would you say, do I have to buy my wife to be an engagement ring? Do I have to? Do I have to do that? Do I have to buy her? I mean, those things are expensive. Huh? It's like $1,000 or more. And some people, I've seen some people, you can, some people you can buy a car for what they paid for their rings. That guy is on life-term payments, to Zales or whoever. It ought not to be, do I have to? No more than you would ask that question about, do you have to buy an engagement ring? The question is, do you want to? And if you do not want to, why would you not want to? Why would you not want to do this? Why would you not want to show your love and your respect for your bride-to-be in such a way so that she can boast in her in the reception of your love, so she can boast about your love for her and the proof of that love? When I was a young man, I was 18 years old when I met Miss Wilma. I met her my senior year in high school. We went up to the college to visit the college where, and I ran in. My brother was already going to that college, and he introduced her to me. And then that following fall, when I entered into college as a freshman, she had not forgotten me. I had rather forgotten her, but she had not forgotten me. I made such an impact. She had not forgotten me, and I was working on a bus route for the church that we were going to, and working in an afternoon Sunday school and training union. It was a Baptist church. Training union had already started. They were showing a film, not a video, a film, projector and everything. And I walked in, all the lights were off. I couldn't see where I was going. And I heard a psst, psst. And I turned around and looked, and it was Miss Wilma and a couple of her friends. And she said, "Do you need a place to sit?" And I said, "Yes." And that was the beginning of a lovely relationship. It still lasts to this day, 50 years later. Amazing. She robbed the cradle. She's 2 years older than me. She stole the baby. But anyway, so we started dating, and we got married my sophomore year. She was getting ready to graduate. My sophomore year, I decided this is the woman I wanted to marry. God, I can't tell you, we don't have the time today, how God brought us together from literally opposite. She is a redneck hillbilly country girl. She grew up in the mountains of North Carolina. When I tell you she's a redneck, barefooted hillbilly, not kidding you, that's what she is. I've actually tamed her. No, just kidding. Yeah. The boys used to laugh when they were growing up. The boys used to tease her mercilessly about her southern accent, cause she had it heavy. And when we kind of broke her of that. But anyway, I wanted to marry her, and I had saved up not nearly enough money, a few $100s. And there was a jewelry store down the street from the college, and one day I went running down there, got my money, went running down there, and bought a ring. Later on, a few years after we were married, I was kind of looking at the ring, and I was looking at the other rings that the other ladies were wearing, and I was kind of like, mine kind of needed the magnifying glass. I was like, but it's not that I did not want to spend the money. It's that I did not have the money to spend. She was lucky to get that. I could have given her the cigar band, right? The little cigar band. But that's all the money I had. And I said, I'm going to do this. And I'm the kind of a person where that decision is made, and boom, it's done. And, I decided I'm going to buy this ring now. And so I went, got the money, went and bought the ring. Had a diamond chip on it. Wasn't even a full diamond, had a diamond chip on it. And later on, I was rather embarrassed about the size of the ring. And so I told her, I said, I'm going to get you a new engagement ring. I'm going to get you another engagement ring. She says, no, you're not. I said, why not? And she said, well, to begin with, you don't have any more money now than you did back then. So, but another reason, I love this ring. She told me, she says, I love this ring because you gave it to me out of the depth of your love for me. You wanted me to know right then, right there, that you wanted to marry me. And you poured your heart into that ring. So the physical price doesn't matter. It's the fact that this is the ring that you gave me out of your love for me. And the issue was never brought up again. The issue was never brought up again. That's the way we should feel concerning our relationship with Mashiach. Rather than the question, do I have to? It should be, why can't I? Why wouldn't I do this? Go this way. As Cedar was mentioning this morning, after everything he's done for me, after the goodness and the grace and the mercy that he has shown to me when I deserved to not even live. Grace did not begin in what is called the New Testament. Grace began with the first act of creation. That was grace. Why? Grace says God did not have to. That's grace. Grace says I don't have to. Mercy says you don't deserve it. But grace says I don't have to. I don't have to do this for you, but I'm going to. Mercy says you don't deserve it, but I'm still going to do it for you. So after everything that he has done, and imagine this, we've been talking about this in our Spanish class in the Kabbalat Shabbat, about how God poured his essence into the human form that we know as Yeshua. He poured his essence so that Yeshua is the fullness of the Godhead. As we taught in our Kabbalah Shabbat a few weeks ago, the Sefirot, the tree of life. All of the Sefirot. Sefirot means attributes. This is Kabbalah. And so it starts with Malchut. And then it goes to Yesod, foundation. And so the chemo brains hit me now. So it goes to all the attributes. The middle one up here is Tiferet. Everyone say Tiferet. Tiferet is Malchut is the reign, is the realm of, Malchut means kingdom. And that's the realm of the Ruach HaKodesh, of the Shekinah. And Tiferet is above. And that is Mashiach. That is his realm. That is his kingdom. Tiferet, by the way, means beauty. Beautiful one. Beautiful one, I love. Beautiful one, I adore. Tiferet. Did you know in Judaism that Malchut is the bride to Tiferet? Saying the Shekinah is the bride to Mashiach. This is why you always find the two of them together. Wherever you find Shekinah, you find Mashiach, and wherever you find Mashiach, you find Shekinah, so that when the Shekinah appeared over the camp of Yisrael, within was the angel of the Lord. And Nachmanides tells us that this angel of the Lord was none other than Mashiach. That when they crossed the Red Sea, the book of Exodus tells us that the Shekinah, that the fire went to the front and the cloud went to the back. That the Shekinah went to the front and Mashiach went to, it says that when the Pharaoh was pressing hard upon them, they stepped into the sea, and the sea parted, and they began to cross over. That the light went to that the fire went to the front, and the cloud went to the back. The light, the fire, is the Shekinah. The cloud is the Mashiach. That he went with his sword drawn, and here he's called Malach Elohim, the angel of God, because he's bringing judgment. And Rashi tells us that whenever you see this term, Malach Adonai or Malach Elohim, when it says Ha Malach, that is a specific Ha, means the. It's a specific angel. That this specific angel, Ha Malach Elohim, the angel of God, Ha Malach Adonai, the angel of the Lord, that this is Mashiach. That's not Christianity, that is Judaism. And so you always find the two together. In Judaism, the sages teach us that when God created Adam, that he created Adam v'Chava. He created Adam with Eve, with Chava. That Chava was found within him, so that oftentimes in Kabbalistic artistry concerning creation, you will see Adam and Chava as a creation, as a human being, front to back. One side is Adam and the other side is Chava. An artistic interpretation of this. We know that Chava was within Adam. How do we know this? Because God put Adam into a deep sleep and he drew her out from his rib. He drew her out from within. So when God had first created Adam Rishon, we call him Adam Rishon, the first Adam, that he was created with both entities, with all of the attributes of both of them. And then when he drew Chava out, he drew out those feminine attributes with her. However, she still maintains masculine attributes. and he remained, and the masculine attributes remained with him, but he retained some of the feminine attributes. Saying that the father is the disciplinarian of the house, and yet he does have the ability to show compassion and mercy. The mother is the compassionate one of the house, but she does have the capacity to show discipline. When Chava fell, when Chava listened to the serpent and Nachash, and she ate of the fruit, when Adam saw that she had fallen, you see, she was deceived. But he was not deceived. And everybody wants to know, why did Adam partake of the fruit knowingly with his eyes wide open? Because that's how much he loved Chava, that he refused to be separated from her. Even in her sin, knowing that this would bring about his fall and the cause of their death, that he loved her so much that he refused to be separated from her. So he chose to fall with her. That puts a whole different spin, a whole different twist on the story, does it not? He was not falling out of open rebellion against God. He was falling because he loved his wife that God had given him so much that he refused to let go of her. Rather than destroying them, God honored what he did. Now, don't misunderstand what I'm saying. God did not approve it, but he honored the love that he brought about the opportunity for them to be reborn, recreated, so that they would die, but they would be raised again in a new life in which they could not fall. But what Adam was doing was he was the Adam Rishon, the first Adam. You hear Rav Shaul in the book of Romans talking about the second Adam. This is Yeshua Mashiach. Mashiach is Adam coming to redeem the fallen bride. You see, if Adam had stayed true to God and on, then God would have made the way for Adam to redeem the fallen bride. But rather, he went ahead and fell with her. So Mashiach has come, Yeshua came to say, no, this is the way it's done. I live perfectly, and by my perfection, I can redeem you, my bride. Now the world, Malchut, is the realm, is the kingdom of the Shekhinah, the bride. So when Adam, when Chava fell, when the world fell, there was a separation between the Shekhinah and Mashiach. Just as there was a separation at that moment, as soon as Chava fell, there was a separation between Chava and Adam. So when the world fell, there was a separation now between Shekhinah and Mashiach, because the Shekhinah must remain with her kingdom. You notice that Yeshua says this, I must leave so the Shekhinah, so the Holy Spirit can come. If I remain, the Holy Spirit cannot come. Why? Because they will not be joined together until all is made correct. Everything is corrected, the new creation. Then the two will be rejoined together. And so even as Adam was desperate in his love for Chava, so desperate that he decided to cross over with her and fall with her. So Mashiach and Ruach HaKodesh are constantly struggling, are constantly fighting, if you would, to come together, to bring themselves back together the way they're supposed to be. It's like a husband and wife who are separated by some tragedy, and they are fighting, they're struggling to live and to survive and to find, where did the husband go, where did the wife go, where are you, where are you? They're not attracted, they're not distracted. Everything is about that, the bringing back together of that relationship, the remending of that relationship. And so Mashiach is constantly drawn to the Shekhinah, and the Shekhinah is constantly drawn to Mashiach, even though they are separated. It's like the positive and the negative of magnets that are constantly trying to come together. Do you not know that your body is the temple of the Ruach HaKodesh, of the Shekhinah, of the Holy Spirit? This is what makes us, as it were, the bride. It is not because we're the bride individually, or that we're the bride of our own being, of our own insistence, or however you want to put it. We are the bride because we have the indwelling of the Ruach HaKodesh within us. The Shekhinah lives within us. That's what makes us the bride. She's the bride. We are the temple in which the bride takes up residence. Therefore, as the Spirit is holy, we are to be holy. As she is holy, so her abode, her home, her house is to be holy. Her dwelling place is to be holy. So there are people who will say, well, do I have to get married? No. You don't have to. Nobody's forcing you. My question to such a couple is this: why would you not want to? Why would you not want to get married? If you feel so much for that person, why would you not want to marry them? Well, it's just a piece of paper. How many of you have heard that? I've had people tell me that. It's just a piece of paper. That's foolishness. That's a contract. It's not a piece of paper. It's a contract. You see, we've lost the significance of the marriage. It is a contract between the husband and the wife, between the man and the woman. It is a contract, a binding contract. To dissolve a marriage, you have to go to a court of law and stand in front of a judge, because it is a living contract. And there are only certain conditions under which that contract may be annulled. It may not be annulled, it can only be broken. And that's what divorce is somebody broke the contract. Therefore, the other party is no longer bound by it. But if you love this person as much as you say that you love this person, why would you not want to sign that contract with them, saying that you are going to stay with them and care for them forever? Why would you not want to do that? Well, because we might get divorced. You might lose your finger too. You might lose your ear. Does that mean you go ahead and just cut off your ear because you're going to lose it anyway? Don't eat because you might get fat. It's foolishness. One day my wife and I we weren't married, we were engaged, and we would walk around the college campus because neither of us had money to go anywhere. And so that was our date. We'd walk around the block and again, and they had little park benches there, and so we would sit on the park benches there, and that was our date. And I asked her, I said, okay, so we get married, what about divorce? And she said, I if I'm going to marry you, I don't want to divorce you. And I said, the feeling's mutual. So we made an agreement that night that we would never, in our relationship, discuss divorce. Because as soon as you begin the discussion, it's on the table. So we just took it off the table. And we made an agreement that night. Divorce would never be an option for us. We would work out whatever the situation was. You want to know how a marriage lasts for 50 years? 40 years, 42. That's how. Seems like 50 years. No. I tell her, happy anniversary, dear. We've been married 40 years, and it feels like 40 years. And the truth of the matter is, I'm 62 and she's 65. And it feels like it went by like that. Enjoy your lives together, because it's over before you want it to be. It's like the ride at the livestock show. It's over before you want it to be. But we just took divorce off of the table, and we agreed that we would not even discuss it. That's how you're able to sign a contract when it's not even in your mind to break the contract. You make business contracts, you make a contract with the bank. Go in there and tell the bank, no, I just want to live in the car. I don't want to marry it. I just want to live in it, and use it up, and then when I'm tired of it, I'll just give it back to you, and I just won't make any payments or whatever. Tell the bank that. See if they agree with you. And they'll tell you, hit the road, Jack, and don't you come back. No more, no more, no more. So the question is, why would you not want to? Not, do I have to? So how many of you, you're getting ready to get married, like Emilio back there? He's doing that because he's saying it's good for you and not for him. But anyway, that's it. Hooray for you. It's like I tell you, when somebody announces their wedding, we all tell them, Mazel Tov, which literally means good luck. How many of you start off that life saying, look at all the things I'm going to have to do. Look at all the requirements I'm going to have to keep for you. How many of you said that to your husband-to-be or your wife-to-be? Because you see, you see this? It's a book this thick. This is everything I'm going to have to do for you, and you're going to have to do for me, and what I cannot do and what you cannot do. It's this thick. I went to truck driving school. to get my CDL, 2014. And we walked into the door of the first classroom, and at every chair, on the desk, at every chair, was a book literally just about this thick. And it had a name something like the Federal Truck Driver's Guide. It was all of the rules and the regulations of the federal government. Literally, it was like this thick. And you're responsible for knowing it. That's what they told us. Because if you break any rule in the 50,000 rules in this book, you're responsible for it. And they can literally throw the book at you. And in fact, you are required to carry that book with you in your truck at all times, so that when the police officer pulls you over, he can say, right here is where it says. You can't do that. Or you have to do that. Now, if you and I face marriage that way, none of us would ever get married. That's why you don't face it that way. You see, God did not just appear to them on Mount Sinai and dump this on top of them. It was a 40-year training process. That's why they wandered in the wilderness for 40 years. By the way, the word wilderness, dibar, dabur, means to speak. That's the root of hamidbar, dabur, to speak. Why? Because God took them out, because he said, I want to have a word with you. I want to have a talk with you. And out there, there's no cities. There's no neon lights. There's no television. There's no internet. There's no distractions. It's just the quiet blowing of the wind out in the middle of a desert. Just quietness. And God says, come out here where it's quiet. I want to have a word with you. What I'm saying to you this afternoon is this. You don't have to swallow the book all at once. It's a day-by-day process. It's an event-by-event process. And every day. How long does it take you to learn? You never finish. You never finish learning. And because you've mastered one thing does not mean you've mastered everything. And in fact, you can never master everything. You'll never master everything. Not in this life. But you can become very wise. And you can come to know and understand God in a unique and marvelous way. I know that the elephant is kosher. But there's a question. If the elephant were kosher, how would you eat it? How would you eat an elephant? How do you eat an elephant? Huge, big animal. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Right? Huh? You've seen that, what are those eating challenges and stuff on, on television? Yeah. Man versus food, yeah. The biggest hamburger in the world. Well, how do you eat that? Well, you can't put that whole thing in your mouth. You eat it one bite at a time. And that's how you deal with Torah. It's just one bite at a time. If you try to take it all, you'll quit. You'll give up. You understand that it's just like you don't go into first grade expecting to graduate from senior high school at the end of the year. Hey? You go into first grade expecting what? to finish first grade. And then you have second grade, and then you have third grade. And each year is a learning process. And sometimes you have to go back and relearn. So, the morning prayer, an hour and a half. And you're like, whew, I can never do that. I can never do that. So when you were dating, would you tell your girlfriend that? I can't talk to you for an hour and a half. Woo! Yeah. Superman, where is he? I hear him. So, how do you start the conversation? Good morning. You don't have to start off with an hour and a half conversation. My first conversation with Wilma was, hi, my name is Ed. How are you doing? In Hebrew, we'd say, Modeh lefaneka melekai v'kaya. I am grateful before you, living an eternal King, for in mercy you have restored my soul within me. Great is your faithfulness. Can you do that? You don't have to do it in Hebrew. You can do it in English. You say, I don't know Hebrew. Well, that's okay. God understands English. He's multilingual. In fact, he would prefer that you talk to him in a language you can understand, because he understands them all. I tell little Neo sometimes. Neo's 2 years old, right? He's quite the talker. He's quite the babbler. And sometimes he'll come up to me, Grandpa, Grandpa, and I say, what? And he starts going, and I said, boy, speak English. And he just kind of looks at me, and he's like, blah, 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 blah. I say, I wish I understood what you were saying, kid. I really do. But you know what? God understands him clearly. And if God can understand the babblings of a 2-year-old boy, you think he can understand your simple, plain English or Spanish or whatever language you choose to worship him in? You can say, I am grateful before you, living and eternal King. For in mercy, what? You didn't have to get up this morning. Why did you get up this morning? Because in God's mercy, he empowered you with life. The rabbis tell us that sleep is 10% of death. You understand that. Your body is frozen. You're not there. You're off in dream world. It's 10% death. And you wake up, and then most people, do you know that most people, when they die at night? Most people die at night. So when you wake up in the morning, is it too hard of a thing? Do I have to? No, you don't have to. Just understand that that's the first thing that Ralph Scholl says in the book of Romans chapter 1, verse 18. That when they knew him to be God, they did not acknowledge him as God, and neither were they grateful. The first step that you take away from God is a lack of gratitude. That's the first step. You see, Romans chapter 18 are the steps that a man takes away, that a human being takes away from God. These are the steps. This is how you walk away from him. The very first thing, not acknowledging him. And number 2, stop being thankful. A lack of gratitude. So as Jews, the very first thing we do in the morning, before we even get out of bed, and just spend the week, is called Modeh Ani. M-O-E-D-E. Modeh Ani. Ani. Look it up. And then there's all kinds of ways that you can do it. Put it where you're going to see it first thing in the morning. Just write it on a piece of paper or something. Put it on and put it on your wall right there when you get up. So it's the first thing that you see when you wake up. So that the first thing before you get out of bed, you're saying that you're thanking God for a new day. Then next week, because it is a growing process, it's a learning process. Next week, get a pitcher of water and put it on your kitchen table or your dining room table and a bowl. And in the morning, after you say the Modeh and you get up and you go into the kitchen, pour a little water over your hands. One hand and then the other hand. And there's a little blessing that you can say for that concerning the washing of hands. Now, watch. Because people will say, now, those are the, what do you call them? The teachings of man. Those are the rules of man. Nowhere in the Bible are you commanded to wash your hands. Well, except you misunderstand something. In Torah, the priest was commanded to wash his hands before he started his service. And so they actually had a special pool made of bronze sitting at the door of the temple, and when the priest came in, before he ever started his service, the first thing he had to do was wash his hands. And you are a kingdom of priests. And my body is the temple of the Holy Spirit. So guess what? Yes, you are commanded to wash your hands. It's not just a tradition of man. It's that there are certain people who don't want to do it because they don't like requirements placed upon them. And that's what this is all about. Nobody likes being told what to do. And in fact, if that sign out there on the highway tells you 55, you're going to go 60 because you don't like being told what to do. But let's be honest, let's be realistic. How many people go 60? No, they're not going to pull me over. No, they're probably not. In fact, they'll give you a little leeway. Does that make it right? Does that make it right? No. But you see, this is what Rav Shaul was talking about. It's not that the Torah is wrong, that the Torah is evil, that the Torah is legalism. It's that the Torah teaches you what legalism is, because the moment God says, thou shalt not, guess what you want to do? Because that is your human nature. That is your rebellious spirit within you. As soon as God said to them, you shall not eat of the tree, she said what? I got to have me a bite of that. And that's what Rav Shaul was saying. It teaches you. And the moment you are told you are supposed to do this, the flesh rebels and says, nope, not going to do it. And as soon as you are told you cannot do that, the flesh says, I'm going to do it. I used to say, I'm ashamed of myself, I used to say, you want me not to do something? Tell me I can't do it. Dare me. Double dog dare me, I assure you, I'm going to try. That's the old me. The question is not, do I have to go to synagogue? No, you don't have to. Stay home. Watch TV. That's cool. But I want you then to go up to your girlfriend or boyfriend, your date. Do I have to go out on a date with you? Because that's what shul is. That's what synagogue is. We are on a date with God. This is a moed. This is an appointment. What does appointment mean? You have a date with the Mashiach. That's what you're here for. Well, I don't know what to say. Would you tell your boyfriend or girlfriend, I don't want to go out with you because I wouldn't know what to say? What was the name of the Shakespeare play? You know, where the boyfriend doesn't know what to tell the girlfriend, and so the guy's hiding in the bushes, giving him the words to speak. Huh? Yes. So the Torah tells you what to speak. The Tehillim, the Psalms, they tell you what to speak. In fact, the Psalms tell you what to speak in all seasons and all occasions. Happy? Say this. Sad? Say this. In a singing mood? Sing this. Not singing mood? Don't sing. Can't go to sleep at night? I'm with you. Here's the words. In a deep place, in a dark place, go to Hallmark. Look at some greeting cards. It's like the guy that has the book, and it tells you all the neat things to say to the girl. Well, say this, say this, say this. That's all right. If you're a little tongue-tied and you can't talk on your own, that's all right. But you see, that's what we're doing here together. We are the temple of the Ruach HaKodesh. We are the temple. We are the body of the bride of Mashiach, and we've come together to tell him sweet nothings in his ear. And how many of you, there are times with your husband, your wife, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, you're just so excited, you're just talking and talking and talking and talking and talking. That's the beginning of the liturgy. And then there are some times where it's that intimate closeness and stillness, and you're just barely talking to each other. You're just... You don't have to do anything. Do I have to get circumcised? But I understand if you don't, you're not signing the contract. Is it going to hurt? Yes, a little bit. But bless God, you're not Abraham. And you're not 90 years old without any means of pain relief, sitting there in the heat of the day, hoping for night to come so it'll cool off a little bit and maybe you can get some rest. And you're not Moshe. And your wife comes up to you and circumcises the two boys and throws the foreskin at his feet and says, "You are a bloody man." That you're part of the contract. He asked you to cut the foreskin. He cut off his whole life. And you don't find him saying, "Do I have to? Is it going to hurt?" He says, "That's why I came. I came to be cut off and to be hurt." Small sacrifice to make. Do I have to wear talit? No, you don't have to. You don't have to wear kippah. You don't have to do anything. Do you want to? Should you want to? Why are you not asking, why can't I do this? Why can't I be this way? And then in closing, let me explain something to you. It's not about keeping all the Torah anyway, because nobody keeps all the Torah. Why? Well, primarily because all of the Torah does not pertain to you. You only apply what pertains to you. For example, there are rules that apply to the women that don't apply to the men. There are rules that apply to the men that don't apply to the women. And then there are rules that apply to everybody. There are rules that only apply when you are in the land. We're not in the land, so they don't apply. There are rules that only apply every few years. For example, there are rules that apply every 3 years. There are rules that apply every 7 years. There are rules that apply every 50 years. You don't apply them every year. Then there are rules that only apply when you're in the temple. And there is no temple, so those are non-applicable. You cannot apply what does not exist. Now, when the temple is rebuilt, and it will be, then those will become applicable again. When we are in the land, and we will be, then those will become applicable. But you only apply. I had a lady ask me very smart aleckly one time, so do you carry a shovel around because the Torah says that you're supposed to carry a shovel around with you? And I said, is that the context? I said, well, first of all, I'm a farm boy, so yes, I have a shovel in the back of my truck. Second of all, it doesn't apply. Why? Because we're not in the wilderness. We have modern restrooms. So that is just, excuse me, stupidity. It's talking out of ignorance because you don't know what you're talking about. It doesn't apply. The Bible says that we're not to wear clothing mixed between plants and animal. Because God hates a mixture. There's a reason for the teaching. It's to teach us that God does not like us intermixing. He likes the separation. When we plant gardens, we're not to plant mixed species in a garden. We're supposed to plant by variety. Everybody else can plant a mixed garden, but not you and me, because God said He hates mixture. But what I wanted to say in closing is this. So let's, really. Rav Shaul says, let us not lay again the foundation of salvation and the resurrection of the dead and baptisms. You've already been taught all of these things. Let's quit disputing the thing like food. Quit disputing that. It is what it is. I'm not going to give you excuses. I'm not going to say, well, it's because of this reason or that reason. It's simply because God said, and as Yaakov says in verse 1, I am a slave of God. Do we understand that concept? I am a slave of God. I do it because He said do it. It doesn't matter what the reason is. It simply matters that He said to do it. Or not to do it. So let's quit discussing. For me, I don't even like eating fake crab. I don't. Because God said not to have the real thing. Okay, well, I'll come up with a fake one. That's all right. And if you do, that's fine. I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying for me. This is my rule for myself. So I don't eat fake crab. Because I know it's not real anyway. Right? That's not real. That's fish. and they put a non-kosher red dye in it to make it look like crab meat. And they put crab juice in there. Well, if you're going to give me the crab juice, just give me the crab. But I'm just saying, if we're told to avoid something, for me, from my perspective, if we're told to avoid something, then we avoid it. That's just my perspective. But let's put all of that aside anyway. Let's quit debating over food and this food and that food. And there are some that are going to be more stringent than others in their following, in their understanding, in their obedience. That's okay. Everybody's at their own place. That's okay. That's fine. I've often told you, and people come up to me and they ask me questions, well, this and that and the other, and I will always tell you, I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'm going to tell you what the Scripture says, and then you decide what you're going to do from there. I'm going to tell you what I do, but I'm not going to tell you what to do. And I will tell you things from here that I will not tell you face to face because it would embarrass you. But we're all at different levels. That's okay. That's acceptable. And we're all in a growing aspect, and we're all striving to come to terms with things. We've all been raised in a different lifestyle. None of us here have been raised Jewish. But that doesn't mean I shouldn't want to. And I guarantee you, in order to marry Miss Wilma, if I knew that there were certain requirements and certain expectations and such as that, I would do it. I wouldn't fight it. Well, if that's what it takes. Is that not what Yaakov said himself? What did Yaakov say? He said, I want her. And Lavan says, okay, you can have her. Give me 7 years of your life. And Yaakov says, deal. And he gives him 7 years of his life, only to find out that he was working for the wrong woman. And Lavan says, oops, I made a mistake. And this is why, in a Jewish wedding, the groom is required to pick up the veil before the wedding starts to make sure he's got the right one, because Yaakov made the mistake of not picking up the veil and he got Leah instead of Rachel. And Lavan said, well, it's done, and you've already, you bought it, you got it. No returns. And Yaakov is like, well, what do I have to do to get Rachel? I told you, 7 years. And he was willing to do what it took. So he worked another 7 years. And then he was there to keep peace in the family. He was there for another 7 years. He was there for 21 years for one wife. I just came to get a wife. "21 years. Torah is so much more than that. It's amazing we never talk about equal and unequal weights and scales. Mispricing items. Cheating. We hardly hear of those kinds of things. We hardly hear of, there's no such thing of finders keepers. You must find the owner of a lost item. We seldom hear about putting railings around the roof of your houses and up the stairway so that people don't fall down, because you are responsible for the people on your property. All we hear about is, I want to eat my pork and my lobster. And Torah is so much more than that. Do I have to? No. But then don't tell me you're in a contract with God. Because all contracts have their restrictions, have their stipulations. And if you're not willing to keep the stipulation of the contract, you're not in a contract. You're just out there doing your own thing. No matter what you claim. No matter what you claim. What is the Torah about? It is the instruction on how to love God with all of your heart, soul, and strength, and how to love your neighbor as yourself. That's the Torah. So do I have to wear tefillin as a man? Yes. If you're going to be in the contract, you do. Because he said to. Do I have to wear tzitzit? Yes. If you're going to be in a contract. If you're not in the contract, you don't have to do anything. But if you're in the contract, you understand that there are these stipulations for you to follow. And then there come along these wise men through the ages who tell us, look, we know that the Torah says to do this, but we want you to go a step further and do a little more, just to make sure that you're doing it fully and completely and with all of your heart, and that you're not being tempted to stray here or to stray there. And so they put up fences and borders around these laws to make sure that we keep them and we don't break them. Is that okay? Absolutely. You do the same thing in your house. If you don't want your child to do this, then you extend the border and you say, don't do this. And that way you don't know they're not doing this. If you want your child to be home by 12, you put the rule they have to be home by 10. Because if they're home by 10, you know they're home by 12. Do you see that? It's not that difficult a thing. Quit fighting it. Quit struggling with it. There's nothing wrong with going the extra mile. I love you, babe, but I'm not going the extra mile for you. Huh? Would you tell your husband or wife that? I love you, dear, but that's just too much. I love you, but I really don't want to put any effort into this relationship. Then you don't love. I found out the depth of Miss Wilma's love for me 3 years ago this week. Because I had had the tumor removed. And 10 days later, they sent me home. And the very next day, a deep infection set in, and my intestines literally ruptured within me. And all of the poison was pouring into my belly. She had already stayed in the hospital with me for 10 days. They took me back to the hospital, performed emergency surgery on me. And I was in for another 10 days. How did she prove her love? She never left my side. For 20 days, she sat in a chair by my bed 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 20 days. She did not go home. She did not go out shopping. She would go maybe twice a week to my brother's house to take a shower and come straight back. She slept in the room with me. For 40 years earlier, she said, for rich or poor, in sickness or in health, till death do us part. And 3 years ago, she literally proved to me the depth of that. 3 months later, it happened again, and I was back in the hospital. Another 10 days, this time in ICU. I was in ICU for over a week, unconscious, out of my mind. And there she sat. And as I was coming to, as I was waking up, I was having the most horrible visions and nightmares that you could imagine. I thought they were harvesting my body, literally. And I thought that she was part of it. And I thought she wasn't real. And I would push her away from me, and I would bite her, and I would scratch her, and I would push her away, and I would tell her, go sit down over there, leave me alone. And she would try to kiss me, and she would try to hold my hand, and I wanted nothing to do with her because I thought they were trying to kill me. And she bore it. And she put up with it. And she dealt with me, and she would tell me, how even through all of that, and through my anger, and through my hatred, and through my animosity to her, she would just keep telling me how much she loved me, and she would keep trying to hold my hand, and she would kiss my forehead, and she would keep loving me and loving me and loving me and loving me and loving me. That's what it means to be a bride. That's what it means to be a wife. That's what it means to be in love. It's not all picnics in the park and wine and roses. Sometimes it's cemeteries and hospitals. Why am I saying that? Because that's the kind of love that we should have for God and for Mashiach. That we're willing to go to all costs to keep our contract with Him. Till death do us part. But at death we don't part. You see, our contract states at the bottom, the last clause, not the Santa Claus. The last clause, it says, well done, my good servant. Enter into the joy of praise. Come into my kingdom. For all of eternity, you dwell here with me. That's the final clause of the contract. And who can beat that? Now, it's not even a matter of if you keep all of this, then you get in. No. He says, no, I know you messed up here, you messed up there. That's okay. I got you covered. You're mine. You trust me. You obey me. You keep your contract. And even if you mess up, okay. That's why I died. That's why you live. So, do you have to? No. But then don't say you're in a contract. If there's no clauses, there's no contract. What's the purpose? What's the point? The whole reason why there's a wedding certification, and it is filed with the court. You get married here, you go down to Brownsville, and you turn in your wedding certificate. I did a wedding last Friday. And he forgot to have me sign it. Oops. You know what that means? He's not legally married as far as the law is concerned. If I didn't sign it and they haven't turned it in, he's not legally married. The qualifications have to be met. Do I have to? No. But why wouldn't you want to? Why would you not want to? So, Cody, with that, would you close in prayer?